welcome to the channel. This is Laura's Chronic Life, and I'm Laura, and art is one of the many ways that I cope with my chronic pain. I decided that I wanted to open my YouTube channel with an art series, and October seemed a really good time to do it because I love all spooky things, and so I thought those would be a fun little series to do. I, as the overachiever that my brain is, decided that I have like 8 projects total that I wanted to do, and like a little silly ninny, thought that I could have gotten more done in one video and did not. And that's just fine. We are flexible around here. And so I decided to create more than one video. Last week I made this item and this item. If you haven't seen that video, I will link it down below. I thought it was a lot of fun to make, and I hope you all have a fun time watching it. It was, if you noticed, it's sort of had a theme of florals. This theme of this week is skulls. So all 3 projects that I have planned are skull related, and I'm crossing my fingers that we will finish all 3. I may edit and put that we only have 2. We don't know. We'll figure it out. They're a lot smaller. However, I tend to get carried away in the moment and do things that may not be necessary, but my brain just gets carried away. I tend to hyper-focus a lot when I'm doing art. So we'll see if we get all 3 done. It is the goal. We'll put it that way. We have a bottle. We have 3 skulls. One is glass jar. One came from the skeleton from the first video. And this little bitty one. And we have some skeletal hands. We have a plaque that we're going to use. We have some tiny little clay skulls that I made. Yeah, so I'm super excited and can't wait to get started, and I hope you stick around to find out what I make. Let's go! Alright, so we started off with putting a clear layer of gesso onto this bottle to give it some texture, and even though it says it's clear gesso, it doesn't dry completely clear and it gives it more of a frosted look. After that, I cut up some of this Halloween webbing decor and added it to the bottle to make it look like kind of cobwebby or spiderwebby, mostly just to give it some texture and make it look really old. Now, with everything that happened today, this was really all I got done, so we will move on to day 2 in a second. Good morning. It is day 2 of this video. I didn't get much done yesterday. Hi, hello. I did not get much done yesterday. I didn't plan well and also started getting a migraine. So all we really got done yesterday was the bottle and dirtying it up and adding the webbing. It's really all I did on film behind the camera, so to speak, not on film. I sculpted a couple more clay skulls, and then I tried a couple things with some horns that you will see later because it did work out. I am much lower energy than I was yesterday, which is unfortunate because I have more to do today since we didn't get things done yesterday. But that's just how things go. It is supposed to rain this afternoon and tomorrow, so I'm hoping to get as much as I can get done before that sets in, because once that sets in, there is a possibility the migraine that I have will get worse. So if at any point while I'm filming you see like my left eye kind of wink at you like this, it's not really me winking at you, it's just something that happens when I have a certain kind of migraine. If it gets too bad, obviously I will go lay down. So I am not pushing myself past what I feel like I can do with my body. I've definitely learned to work with a certain amount of pain. And honestly, I think I did mention it in my intro yesterday. This is how I cope with pain. I learned early on that if I just kind of lay there, it feels worse. Now, sometimes I can't do anything but that, and that's a different story. But if I can still walk around, if I can medicate and distract myself with something that I love, then that's kind of like the best medicine. Not always able to do that, but I think we can do today. I am thankful that I have some good medication that works, even if it keeps me from working sometimes. But that's why this is a thing. All right, so enough rambling. We have a lot to do today. I do want to get the bulk of it all done today, though, because I have OT in the morning and also starting PT, physical therapy, tomorrow. So I have an hour of each. So leaving the simplest thing for tomorrow afternoon seems to be the smartest idea, considering energy, and we'll just see. So yeah, I guess we should go get working. Kupo. Hey, pretty girl. Alright, so we used some Payne's Gray and some brown paint to distress the bottle that we glued the webbing on yesterday. This was just to give it a more detailed, dirty look. Then we moved on to the skulls that I did. Here they are clean. And then I just added a paint wash to them and then put some gray into the sockets. After that, I worked on the plaque. I put a layer of ivory on it to cover everything up, and then I put a layer of greenish mixture on top of that to show through, because I was going to do a crackle layer later after I add the Payne's Gray and green mixture on top. After that was done painted and letting it dry, I moved on to the skull. I tried a few different things with the skull. A lot of different things, actually. I did manage to get it painted in the end, though. Here I'm making the mirror horn for the other side of the horn that I made yesterday off camera. I'm using a foil base to get the shape that I want, and this was a little harder than I thought to get an exact mirror replication of it. But in the end, it's as close as I could get it. It's a little wonky, but it kind of adds to the fantasy of it. After I got it all sculpted out of aluminum foil, I added a thin layer of Sculpey clay on top of it, and then threw that into the oven. There it is. I glue on the skulls to the bottle next, and I kind of play around with these to kind of get them in a graduated size motif. I don't know what words I'm looking for here. But I kind of play around with this for a little bit until I get them exactly how I want them, and in the end I'm very, very pleased with how this project came out. The horn is now out of the oven, and I'm using a specific technique to get some coils around the horn. I think next time I'm just going to put a thick layer on top of it and use a putty knife to carve them in, because this took way too long. It did work, it does look nice, but it took a long time. I'm not in view. Okay. Let's see, is that gonna work? That's better. Okay, so it is, I have a watch on. It's 4 o'clock. I've got a massive migraine at this point. I need to go take some more medicine, and I also need to figure out what we're doing for dinner that's quick and easy. probably just black bean burgers and sweet potato fries, honestly. So I finally got this done. I'm not sure why I had so much trouble with this when, like, I had such an easier time with the torso part of it. Granted, the torso part of it, I was going for more of a green, mossy, foresty look. This one, I wanted it to match the hands that I bought, and I didn't paint the hands at all. They just were as is, and they were pretty skeletal and that's a shadow and dirty looking, and I wanted him to match as closely as I could. The first couple tries I tried were way too grayish looking, and then the tea, it didn't work at all. So this finally did work. I just used some really gross colored paint. It looks like baby poop. But anyways, it worked. It's pretty close. Now I just gotta figure out how I want to sit it in there. It can stay that way. The horns are both done now. They just need to be glued on, and then I'm going to most likely paint them while they're on, maybe? Or maybe I'll paint them by themselves and then put them on. That's probably what we'll do. We'll paint these by themselves and then put them on, because that might be the easiest way to paint them. But I'm going to have to do that tomorrow because my body is done for today. Tomorrow may be a late-ish day. Well, I don't know. If all I have to do is paint the horns and attach them and then put this thing together, that might not take as long, since I'm just going to use mostly the same colors and I've already got them all out here. So hopefully this won't be as trying as this. I don't think clearly when I'm getting a migraine. I don't know about anybody else who suffers from those or any chronic pain, really. When my pain gets worse, the thinking process gets worse. The brain fog, the not thinking things through, just gets worse. And so that's about the point where I'm at. And I'm slightly frustrated with Mr. Skull here. However, we got there in the end, and that's fine. And I'm thankful for that. And but I'm gonna go. Alright, so I glued on the horns with hot glue. I'm not sure where the footage of that is, but we're just gonna move on. And so what I'm doing here is mixing some paint with some modeling paste to add some texture, but also make the horns look like they are growing out of the skull instead of just attached to the skull. Modeling paste is one of my favorite mediums to work with. I think it's really fun. It adds a lot of texture and can seamlessly meld things together. I also love it when I'm doing acrylic painting and things like that. But here I'm just plopping it on and spreading it out and trying to make the two things look like they're one item. I am really pleased with how these horns turned out. It's one of my favorite projects that I did in this video, is the skull with these horns. And I'm not sure if I said it in the beginning or not, but like my thought process behind adding the horns to the skull was like a tiefling look, if you are familiar with D&D at all. My character in Baldur's Gate is a tiefling, and I have a random character sheet that I've designed for whenever we can get a campaign together, and that character is also a tiefling. But anyway, I put a base layer of paint onto the horns to make it blend in to the skull itself, make it look more cohesive, and then I add some dark brown and the Payne's gray and different variations onto the base, just for some interest in color. After that, I use the same color with a different brush and a dry brushing technique to kind of blend it in and not have such a harsh demarcation line of color there at the base of the horns. And this was also fun, and I, again, just really enjoyed how these horns turned out. And I kind of want to make another set that I can wear on my head that aren't as heavy as these. Here I am just adding some Rub and Buff in gold leaf color to the tip of the horns. Again, my character in Baldur's Gate has some gold on her horns, and so that's where the idea and inspiration came behind this. I just add it to the tip though, not everywhere, but I like how it turns out. Alright, so what you see here is a lantern from Dollar Tree. It was about $5, but basically I went and bought this to replace the skull with the horns on the plaque because I decided that I just really wanted the horns and skull by themselves. So I'm distressing this lantern with some crackle paint and adding it to the plaque instead. Now, something that I do end up realizing is the crackle paint didn't mix well with the finish of the plastic, and so when I went in to add the metallic paint, it kind of flaked off a bit, but it wasn't too bad. It still got the distressed look that I wanted overall, and so we just rolled with it. I then decided that the candle itself needed to look more realistic, and so after trying out some batteries to make sure they worked, I took my glue gun and made it look like it had been lit and melted. While this was fun, this did cause a problem later on with putting the candle back in, and you'll see that. Also, right here, this is a mistake, and can you guess why? I decided to go ahead and glue on the lantern, and I'm using some Gorilla Super Glue and hot glue just to make sure it really sticks because I didn't want it falling off once I hung it on the wall. And so I used the Gorilla Glue, but it takes a while to set, so then I also used hot glue as like a backup and to build up kind of a base for it to sit on. Have you figured out my mistake yet? If not, keep watching, you will see it. Here's where I realized my mistake. I already glued it on without putting the candle back in, and so here I go trying to squish it through the hands. Thankfully it did kind of fit. It moved one of the hands a little bit off of the plaque, and so I just re-glued it on later. But also I'm realizing that the glue that I used was keeping the candle from going in. I did manage to get the candle back in, as you see here, and moved on to painting the tiny skull. I painted it with a layer of black acrylic paint so that once I put on the Rub and Buff, it is a lot neater of an effect. No, I don't like that word. It's just a better effect of having the black show through the different cracks and crevices of the Rub and Buff. The color of Rub and Buff that I used here is antique gold and not the same leaf gold that I used on the horns. Alright, we've moved on to my spell/prayer jar. I'm going to add some pebbles in the bottom to stand for earth and for grounding. After I get done adding these pebbles, I'm going to add some fluorite crystal confetti for balance and stabilization. After that, I'm going to add a bit of chamomile for prosperity and anti-anxiety. Then I'm going to add some cloves to banish negativity and negative self-talk. I'm going to add some lavender for harmony. I'm going to add a cinnamon stick for strength and manifestation. I'm going to add a blue calcite for clear communication. I'm going to add a quartz for clarity and amplification. I'm going to add some amethyst for calm and focus. And then I'm going to add citrine for creativity and protection. It's also my birthstone. After that, I add a dried piece of mint for protection and happiness, some thyme for health and balance, and a basil leaf that I put my sigil on for courage and financial wisdom. And then I'm going to seal this jar with a white candle for new beginnings and to mark that I have pure intentions for this spell/prayer jar. And the entirety of the jar is a fruitful beginnings spell jar. This was fun. I did light the cork on fire, so be careful and make sure you have all the fire safety things that you need. And here we are. Another week, and of course, not exactly what I planned. Yeah. Uh, let's get actually like the overhead on so I can show you a little bit more in detail um, the different things that we made this week. And by we, I mean me. You guys helped with moral support by watching this video. 1 second. All right, that is very yellow, but it's what we got to work with, unfortunately. Eventually, I will buy lights and lighting for this channel. All right, so let's talk about a couple of things. This is one of my favorites, and I originally had planned for it to go on that plaque in the skeletal hands, but once I got done with it, I kind of loved it on its own, and so I left it on its own. It had its own issues trying to get it painted. I decided to try a couple of different things that didn't work, and so in the end we just used paint. But I really love the horns, and I love how it looked, and then I added some of the rub and buff in the eyes, and I love the different look and feel that it gives it. So this is probably going to sit on my bookshelf or something. What we did with the plaque instead is we bought a cheap little lantern and did it instead. I love the way this turns out, and I know exactly where I'm putting this in my creative space. So I'm pretty pleased with that. The bottle also turned out really nice, and I'm pretty pleased with it as well. And it is also probably going to go on a bookshelf. The skulls turned out way like cuter and yet creepier than I anticipated. And then the added of the glue gun to make it look like a candle burn. I am probably going to put like a little tapered candle in here. I think it will be fun. But yeah, I'm super pleased with this too. Kupo, quit moving. Kupo! Hey! No, no, no. Leave Mama's camera alone. This was the easiest project of all. I just painted it with some black paint and then used rub and buff on top of it, and I love the effect of the black showing through. And then last but not least, we have this spell jar. And I'm pretty pleased with it as well. All right. That wraps up another week of Spooky DIY. There will be one more video, and it is going to be witchy themed, and it will be on the Sunday before Halloween. And so I hope you guys join me. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for watching my others if you have. I also want to thank all the people who have subscribed and liked the videos. I really appreciate it, and it will help this channel grow. And I'm very thankful for you all, and I hope you have a good spooky season. Bye.